Welcome everyone to the November 25th V3 implementation call. We appreciate you being here on a holiday week. And as promised, this will be a super short call. We just have so many important topics that we didn't feel like we could miss a week and keep everybody up to date as well. This meeting is being recorded so that if you need to go back in and review any of the V3 calls, or if you have other team members that you would like to share a part of the V3 call with, those are available on our website and also on our YouTube channel for you to review. We will be asking a couple of questions today that we would love you to answer in chat. So if you're not familiar with how to use chat yet, a lot of you use it on these calls, so I'm not too worried, but just in case, we're going to be asking some questions that we'll want answers in chat. And we're using chat specifically so that we know who is giving those answers, because just a poll, we don't capture those names. So just a heads up on using chat this morning. If everyone's ready, we'll jump in, and our first topic of the day is an ET3 update with John Beckett and Neil Milan. So either one of you that are ready to take that, go right ahead.
Sure, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to give an update on ET3. So we're moving ahead at
Hi, John, you just became muted for some reason. We just caught the first couple of words of your first sentence. Could you check in? There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so what I was saying is that, yeah, we are moving ahead at light speed right now to the January 1 date. We have a lot of things happening, particularly on the system side. I did want to report that we are currently working on a data submission guide that will be ready for publish December the 9th, which is something that we have a site, an ET3 site that this will be posted on. So I just wanted to bring everyone to that particular document, if you will. It is going to be something that's a webinar, so you'll get not only the information in a written format, but it'll also be verbally presented to you. So we've got a set of slides that Neil and I are putting together, and I think we're probably going to be the presenters for this as well. So what we intend to do with that is to provide you everything that's needed to be able to do data submission. So folks who have not gone through any of our testing, that pretty much is going to give you the ability to go ahead and do the registration as well as the security key request. So we'll focus a little bit on that as well as some other topics in that webinar. So I just wanted to report that up front. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the December testing. We are going to be conducting another round of tests. It'll be for 14 days starting on the 7th of December. We are going to expand the scope of this testing. In November and October, we did tests where we just focused on security key requests as well as PCR submissions. We want to add two more categories on the scope of the December tests. One is to provide you with the registration process, which, as some of you may know, that's the process you need to go through to get a user ID and password. And then the other is to do some load testing. And the way we've arranged this is, instead of asking that we get load testing candidates from everyone that's involved in the testing, we're just going to target 3 or 4 of you to be able to participate in that type of testing. And just to describe it a little bit, what we're looking for is one or more of you to be able to issue a number of PCRs in rapid succession over a period of time. And we certainly will support you in terms of some of the test data, because as you remember, we don't want to get real data at this time, but we will support you with the test data. And it is to, again, stress our system as well as to give us an indication of what to expect in terms of our loads. So that is something that I will be discussing in the December 7th kickoff meeting. And again, I would encourage, if any of you are interested, to please participate in that, and we will be appreciative of that and welcome it. So that's the other thing I wanted to report. And then the last thing is we had a suggestions list, or we have a suggestions list. These are suggestions that we got from a lot of the vendors that participated in our tests up until now. And in the December 7th meeting, I'll walk through the list again just to give you a sense of where things are. We do have some good news to report, particularly in one or two of the suggestions. And we also are working very hard to see if we can accommodate a suggestion that was made that we offer feedback in this testing cycle as to the PCRs that are being submitted. So what that means is that if you're a vendor submitting PCRs, we'd like to know how many successful PCRs was received, how many were failed, and that will give you confirmation that we're receiving exactly what you're sending on your side of it. So we're working hard to see what we can put together. It will not be the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution we're looking for is a dashboard, and that is something that will come in one of the releases in 2021. But we are going to offer something that will be suffice in terms of giving you feedback. So I'm going to pause there. There are a couple of questions that I would like to pose to the group, and if you could give me some feedback in the chat, that would be very helpful. One of the questions I'm going to put on the table here is, what is the maximum, minimum, and average size message that typically you would be sending as it relates to your PCR records? And if you can give that to us in kilobytes, that would be great. The second question I have is, what are the typical number of PCRs that are submitted by the vendors? And if you can quantify that by week or by month, that would be helpful as well. So those are two questions that if I can get some feedback from folks on this call, we would greatly appreciate that. Okay, Clay, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate it. So this is for the vendors. If you'd be so kind as to use the chat and provide the answers, we'll be able to move quickly through the agenda. So let's pose the questions in the chat. Yeah, thank you, Peter. So, so John, can you type those two questions in the chat?
Sure.
And let's get people to be able to respond to those. Yeah.
I'll do that right now.
Okay, thank you, John. While John's doing that, I'll just pass along one additional product that we're working on in regards to ET3. Let folks know we've made some progress on this. We talked about kind of a custom disposition document where we would be helping the vendors and also the EMS providers with the type of documentation, the elements we expect to be completed based on the type of ET3 model that is used for each call. And so say, for example, there's a treatment in place call, or there's a transport to an alternate destination. How does ET3 expect those calls to be documented with standard NEMSIS elements and with ET3 custom values and elements? This document will also include things like, for example, you attempted to do treatment in place, but the patient got worse, so you ended up transporting to the emergency department, or the patient refused to participate in telemedicine and wanted to be transported to an alternate destination. All those types of combinations of things that our providers could potentially see, those will be included in that document. And we anticipate that document will be out next week. I think it'll be very helpful for both the vendors to kind of think about their graphical interfaces and how to organize the elements. And will also be important for our providers to kind of get a feel for how we expect them to document. All right, I see we have some answers from Juan and Adam in regards to the questions. John, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and continue putting those questions in. Julianne, I'm going to skip to the end because I have questions also for the chat. Let's let the questions associated with ET3 circulate a little bit. So I'm going to pass on my items about immunization and vaccine to the end of the call. Is that okay?
Yep, that sounds good. I think then we could go to Kevin next on the agenda while we're still doing the getting those answers for John in the chat. Kevin, do you want to share a couple of the updates to the COVID resource dashboard?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much, Julianne. So I hope everyone is able to see the EMS resource reporting tool dashboard on my screen now. As always, I want to make sure everyone is aware that what I'm showing is not the live dashboard. This is a dashboard that contains test data. We always want to protect our participants' information as much as possible. We do have two important updates that we've made recently to this dashboard. So first and foremost, we have changed the frequency with which this dashboard updates. So in the past, this dashboard only updated with new data on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and we've decided that we're going to go ahead and we decided to change that to every weekday morning. So this dashboard should now be refreshed every weekday at around 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I'll let you do the conversion as necessary for your own time zone. The second thing that we've done is we've changed the default date window viewing for this dashboard. Again, we've gotten some feedback that in the past, previous week or current week and previous week were a little difficult for people to wrap their heads around. So we've just gone with something that's a lot easier, which is by default, this date picker is going to show the prior 7 days. And then, of course, you can select any range that you want after that, but by default, this is going to show prior 7 days. As always, we still have the ability for people to download either the visualizations, or of course, if you want to download the entire data set, you can use the COVID exposure and the PPE supply tab views, and again, utilize that download button. And I encourage you to always select cross tab for those so that you can actually pull down the data and analyze it yourself. And of course, if you want to subscribe to this dashboard and get it in your email, you can do that using the subscribe button. And now that we have that daily refresh of the data, if you've already subscribed or considering subscribing, I'd encourage you to use the weekday mornings schedule with your subscription, so that then you yourself will also get this emailed to you every weekday as new data arrives. Are there any questions on that before I turn it back over? All right, back to you, Julianne.
All right. Next on the agenda, let's go ahead and have Josh talk for a minute about the 3.4 to 3.50 translation document.
Thanks, Julianne. Let me get my screen sharing up here with the right screen.
And Josh, you are really soft.
Might help if I put my mic in front of my mouth.
That does, that makes a difference.
All right. Okay, just have an update for you on the translation resources. Ann Vosbrink in Arizona was reviewing the 3.4 to 3.5 translation and found a couple bugs, one in the translation itself and one in the documentation. which we have corrected in the NMSIS repository, and just want to show you those corrections. So you can get these resources through the technical resources menu and then mapping/translation. I'm going to pull up the documentation, which is this here. We have a note at the top about what was corrected. It had to do with a couple of codes in edisposition.12 and how they mapped one of them to edisposition.28. That was just a documentation error. And then two codes mapping to edisposition.29, which were an actual translation bug. I'm going to go back over to the website here and actually head over to the Git repository, which gives us a handy way to actually see the differences. So kind of to illustrate this, going into the NMSIS public repository, looking at the commits, we have a commit here for corrections to the translation. And so if I go down to the documentation file, we'll see the note at the top of the document. And then the important ones, this was the documentation fix. This particular value, as it mapped to edisposition.28, it was mapping to the same value as the one above it here, which was incorrect. It should have been mapping to the same as the one below it. So, so patient evaluated, no treatment transport required, gets mapped to patient evaluated, no care required. And then the one that was both a translation error and a documentation error had to do with the mapping from edisposition.12 to edisposition.29. It had to do with patient refused evaluation and care. That was initially, the documentation had the right code, the XSLT had the wrong code. But anyway, it was mapping not to incident support services, but to back-end service care support services refused. And then the next code for patient refused evaluation and care with transport also had a bug in it, and now maps to back-end service care support services refused. So a couple little tweaks there in the translation. Again, this is affecting from 3.4 to 3.5. Of course, you can do the same thing here looking at the XSLT and drill in and see where those codes got moved from one case to a different case to correct the mapping. So that's the 3.4 to 3.5 translation update. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Josh. All right, let's take a few minutes and talk about vendor compliance policy. AJ, do you want to take that?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So we've actually added some sections to the NMSIS compliance policy. Under our maintaining compliance section, we've added some clauses for probation, losing compliance, regaining compliance in our appeals process. And to learn more about these items and how you can get to this information, I'm just going to share my screen. It's not, there we go. Okay, so we are going to go here. So once you get to the NMSIS homepage, under technical resources, we're going to go to compliance, and you'll see this screen. Under here, under general information, we have our under our V3 compliance policy, you can, under general information, you will click that. And here's our, the NMSIS V3 compliance policy. Most of it is the same. However, again, once you get to the maintaining compliance policy, you will scroll down and you will see our probation clause that we've added, how to lose compliance with the NEMSIS TAC, how to regain compliance, and any appeals process on how to getting out of probation. And we also have down here, we've added a nice flow diagram, which shows you the different ways. If anybody has any questions, will this get me off of compliance? Will this put me on probation? You can always come and reference this diagram here. And as you can see, a vendor is compliant, they complete recertification testing. If they haven't, they can lose compliance. These are the many different processes. So it's good to take a look at that if you have any other questions. And again, our disclaimer down here. And then I will give that back. Julianne, I believe
All
you're.
right.
All
Yep.
right, thanks.
And a copy of that policy will go out to the Google groups as well, just as an update, so that everybody has that. All right. Are we ready to shift chat questions? Clay, do you want to tee up the immunization conversation, and then I'll put those questions in chat as well.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of more questions. We'd like some answers in chat, and we'll have Eric Cheney at the Office of EMS at NHTSA close us out on the call. So we've kept this short. Again, would be incredibly helpful if you could put some answers to the following questions that we have listed here into chat. A couple of people have already responded, kind of thinking ahead. Thanks, Jesse from Virginia. Others have already responded. We're collecting this information. Eric would like to have this information available as he gets more questions at the federal level. And I know software companies continue to receive additional questions in regards to how EMS may participate in a vaccination process as we move into December and into the spring. That still remains incredibly fluid, right, even at the federal level, but we're trying to collect some additional information just right now to see if we can have some background information made available to the feds for questions that they ask, or for the states as well. So let's walk through these questions. Julianne is posting them. So to the vendors, are you currently collecting vaccine administration elements? If you just indicate out of the answer to that question, I just by maybe listing it as Q1, right? So each of the vendors, if you just, for Q1, are you currently collecting vaccine administration elements, or are they available in your system? That would be valuable to know. Do you have existing elements that you're using? This is an important question for us to determine, is there a way to still at this point come up with some national values that perhaps we could have everyone collect. We collect immunizations, is that what you mean? Yeah, thank you, David. That's correct. And we come back to you, and if you're collecting them, and ask what questions those you provide. So we'd be contacting you next week. Eric, I saw you went off mute. Do you have a
Yes, sir. Just one real quick clarification. So we're interested in knowing, are you collecting vaccination information for the EMS personnel in the agency? And then do you intend to collect vaccine information for patients you would administer vaccine to in the community as part of a program? And I need to say the caveat, because I do this for every time this topic comes up. I am not, NHTSA is not, and the TAC is not in the position where we want to get or try to promote you into the vaccination distribution game for the services that are out there. We have identified that there are state plans, and they're posted at the CDC's website if you want to look at them, that identify EMS as a route for administering vaccine to the public. So we want to make sure there's a process in place, and where possible, we can standardize that process. That would be fantastic. Those are our two big overarching goals. Thank you, Clay.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Appreciate that very much. And a lot of good information is coming in. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to go ahead and respond. And vendors, go ahead and keep responding. That would be great. We know that you're a vendor because of the title that you put in for your attendance today. Let's move on to the state questions. I see we have state people on. Thank you very much for joining. So, Adam brings to point that there are e-history questions in NMSIS now, and thank you, Adam. We know that, and we're trying to determine how those will play in. So thank you for making sure that we mention that. So I'm gonna mention the questions to states now. States, if you would be so kind as to respond to these two questions as Q1 or Q2, and again. Eric, if you want some clarification on these questions, would love to have you share some additional information. So Q1 to states, do you currently have a plan to utilize EMS for vaccine administration? And I'm fairly confident that is community level vaccine administration. And then Q2 is, do you intend to rely on a novel system or a new system to collect community vaccine administration information related to EMS participating in that campaign? Or is there an existing product within your state that you've been told you'll be using if EMS participates in a vaccine campaign within your state? So Eric, did I state those two questions correctly?
You did. Perfect. Yep, that's it.
All right.
I guess one other just general comment of things we're not looking to do. We are not looking to pull this data to the NMSIS TAC to be a part of a national data set or a data set that we would house at NHTSA or at the federal level. This is strictly a facilitation thing between states, between the localities that are involved, but it's being requested and discussed at the federal level. So that's why we are looking into this particular information at this point in time.
Great, thank you, Eric. All right, so states again, two questions are, Q1, do you currently have a plan to utilize EMS for vaccination administration? Even if you don't know, it's still up in the air. That would be wonderful for us to hear. So it doesn't just need to be yes and no. Question two, do you intend to rely on a new system if you are utilizing EMS to participate in a vaccine campaign? Do you plan, or are you looking for a new system to collect the information that they would necessarily collect if they're involved in community vaccination, or is there an existing system that you know will be used within the state? So go ahead and respond to those at your leisure, and to ensure that we close on time, Eric, I'm gonna give you the last final words. Are there other things that you need to share from NHTSA before we break for a great holiday and hopefully a rest for everyone?
Absolutely. I have nothing specific from NHTSA for this group other than to thank everybody for all the work that they've been doing over the last 7 months. I know the data managers and have been, asking for all sorts of things. I know that the states have been pretty demanding in a lot of cases, and you guys have been supporting them, and we really appreciate that. If you look at the EMS by the numbers presentation that Clay and the TAC have been putting out, it paints a really ugly picture, and the version that's going out today is going to make it even worse. So we are definitely in a position where EMS call volumes are going down, ILI activation is going up, and we don't see that changing anytime in the near future. So I'd encourage everyone, get some rest this weekend, enjoy your family time. Please be safe when you're out and about, do smart things. Don't become a statistic on one of these charts for a bad reason, and enjoy your holiday and Thanksgiving. We have a lot of work to do. We'll be meeting the internal and external advisory boards coming up in the near future We'll be kicking off the bidirectional data exchange project. So there's a lot of really cool things that are going on, and despite COVID, and I want to make sure everybody's healthy and can participate in those. So take care of yourselves, enjoy your Thanksgiving, and that's all I have, Clay.
All right, Julianne, turn it back over to you. I'll just mention, Julianne, it might be valuable for us to keep the meeting open for just a couple of minutes after we end, and so if folks continue to work on chat, they can do that.
Yep, great idea. So we're capturing all of your answers in chat. We'll leave it open so that we make sure we've got everything, and we appreciate your participation. Our next meeting is December 9th. The holiday schedule for the TAC is posted. And just a reminder, if you haven't scheduled compliance testing and if you're due, you might want to get on that schedule as soon as possible. And please reach out with any questions. But in the meantime, have a fabulous holiday vacation. Hopefully you'll get some vacation days and be able to enjoy. Thanks so much for being with us, and have a terrific day. Thank you.